All right, here's George. I'm very glad you won that fight, Matt, but I'm not impressed by your performance, and I look forward to fight you in the near future.
Welcome to today's Future State comic book review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Suicide Squad, Future State #1 from Robbie, Thompson, and Javier Fernandez. This is an interesting comic that I had no expectations going in. I didn't have a feeling. I don't particularly think Robbie Thompson's a very good writer. I don't think what he did on Teen Titans when he followed up Adam Glass was very strong, and I don't think anything he's really done at Marvel's been all that strong, but I never really thought he was terrible. But this, my friends, is a terrible comic book. It's awful. And if you were aware of certain things that are happening in conjunction with the Suicide Squad and even the Black Adam movie, this comic book and its big reveals are not going to be all that revealing to you. If you are aware that there is a Suicide Squad movie from James Gunn that Peacemaker plays a very big role in, Peacemaker played by John Cena, the Doctor of Thugonomics himself, you might not be blown. Your hair might not be blown back when you get these very not great reveals in this comic book. Also, if you're familiar with Amanda Waller, that reveal is not going to be very good either, because once heads start blowing off because the person in the earpiece said, "You better listen to me," you know who did it. It's Amanda Waller. This is not a very good comic book. It's actually really bad. It's definitely at the bottom rung. I'm not sure exactly where it goes with the bottom feeders of Future State, but it's definitely down there with Superman and Metropolis, The Flash. What else did that Superman Wonder Woman comic was really bad. There's been some stinkers, and this is definitely right there among them. It's a very poorly illustrated comic book. I expected more from Javier Fernandez. And he must not like Amanda Waller at all, because she's not like comic book cartoony, evil, villainous, goofy looking. She's just very poorly illustrated. He must think that she is the most hideous, ugliest being in the world. And I'm not talking about humans, just being, period. Because he illustrates a hideous Amanda Waller. This is a 1.5 star comic book. I do not recommend this. I recommend you stay away from this as long as you can. Do not read this comic book. But if you paid for it, if you already paid for it and you haven't read it yet, I'm sorry. You probably shouldn't waste your money. Go read the comic unless you can get a refund, and then you'll be thanking me, because this is an enormous waste of time. It's a very bad comic. If you like the Suicide Squad, I'm sorry. There's nothing much original in here. We'll get into the details. Let's get into the details of this really shitty comic book. So right off the bat, we are introduced to the Justice Squad. Now, you might say to yourself, hey, this is supposed to be a Suicide Squad book, not a Justice Squad book. This might not be the team this book's about. And you'd be right. So instead of Bruce Wayne Batman, we got William Cobb, also known as Talon in most of the DC Universe, Batman. Hypnotic Woman is portraying Wonder Woman. Some guy named the Fisherman I've never heard of is basically acting like he's Aquaman. There is an interesting character, and I'll get to that here in a little bit, called Bolt. Apparently, she is the new Flash. Sounds like she was a villain in a past life. This is the Flash character that we saw that had the blade legs on the big Future State promo art. Clayface, the 10th version of Clayface, I believe. I don't know. How many Clayfaces are there? The Clayface is actually the Martian Manhunter, and there is one real true blue superhero among them. It is Connor Kent, a real version of Superman. Obviously, he is the clone of Lex Luthor in Clark Kent. And we get to introduce them right away. And we know there's something wrong here, because you're getting narration from a third party, and you get their logo in there, so you know this is actually Peacemaker. Hey, did you know there was a Suicide Squad movie coming up? John Cena is playing Peacemaker. Shocking that Peacemaker would make an appearance here just as the narrator. I wonder if we're going to see him again. Could he perhaps be leading the mystery team that we have hinted at? Perhaps. Don't give anything away, Robbie Thompson. You want these big reveals to hit. You want to be impactful. So they get into a big fight right off the bat. There's some type of artifact that a team of supervillains led by, I believe it's a ultraviolet version of Sinestro, whatever the stupid thing that Scott Snyder did, the ultraviolet core. So dumb. Or maybe he's an indigo. I'm not sure. I think it's ultraviolet. Sinestro. He's also got a Brainiac with him, also Mongal, I believe. And they take him down with pretty short order. We find out that William Cobb Talon on Earth 3 does not like aliens. He wants to murder them all. But he's being told in his head, you can't do that. You need to go get Brainiac right now because he still has the package. And what happens? The person, guess what the person in the earpiece does, people? Boom. Batman's head blows off. Shocking. Well, obviously it's not Batman. It's Talon. But he was playing Batman. Could this be Amanda Waller? This feels like an Amanda Waller tactic. But what is Amanda Waller doing on Earth 3? Is this an Earth 3 Amanda Waller? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out in one of these enormous reveals. Now, I do want to talk about this character that's here, Bolt. Not a great character design. When they do close-ups of her face, she does actually look quite hideous. Javier Fernandez was not on his A game in this comic book. But she actually has like a pretty interesting character motivation that's hinted at, that she was a villain earlier on in her life, and she sees her time on the Justice Squad as like a means to atone for the sins of her past. Now, that is a story I would like to actually hear. I don't want to read this story, but that story that was hinted at actually sounded kind of cool. It sounded like an interesting character that's conflicted, that is trying to, make things right. That, she's done some evil things. But we're not going to go revisit that because that would be interesting. We got to go revisit this regurgitation of a bunch of stuff we've already read before. Did you know that Amanda Waller is like super evil, even though she's kind of supposed to be on the good guy side? Did you know that? I didn't know that. I'm glad this comic book cleared that up for me. So while this is going on, we get the first tease at who our mystery narrator is. Can you guess who the guy in the helmet is that's watching the countdown on his wrist, that's watching the events go on and monitoring Connor Kent and the other members of the Justice Squad is? It couldn't be Peacemaker, could it? I'm sorry if I said Peacekeeper earlier. I was reading the Dark Detective comic. I might have slipped a Peacekeeper in here. My bad. They're a little too big, too close. Won't happen again. Well, probably will, but I'm going to try not to do that. Could that be the actual Suicide Squad team led by Peacemaker? I don't know. Let's see what the reveal gets us. Along the way, they do get the package from Brainiac, and he's about to expire, and he decides to talk to Connor Kent. And it's severely hinted at that maybe Connor Kent will be joining the Suicide Squad, maybe returning to Earth 1. I wonder if he's going to be on the new Suicide Squad book in Infinite Frontier. I don't remember if they've already revealed that. But this is what Brainiac has to say. He gives him a pep talk as he's dying. I have fought many Supermen across the universe, across the multiverse, across many timelines, my son. None are like you, a clone of the world's greatest hero and the world's most terrifying villain. Is Lex Luthor really terrifying? I mean, he's certainly a villain. I don't know if he's terrifying. I'm more scared of Darkseid. I hope before your master finishes her grand plan, I wonder who the master that he's talking about is, you remember who you really are. You are not a Luthor. You are a Kent. So we got some inspiring words from Brainiac, who apparently hates Superman, has been fighting him across multiverses and timelines, but wanted to inspire this Connor Kent to do what's right. Kind of weird. And then we get further clarification as far as the team. Guess what? Amanda Waller, the lady in the earpiece, is evil people, and she controls people through pain and threats of murder and all kinds of stuff. Connor Kent is obviously the team. It's basically stated that she created Connor Kent in this world, and that she has great plans for him, that he is going to basically rid the universe of something, and they're getting these artifacts to create some type of portal, probably back to Earth 1. I wasn't interested enough to even remember the name of it, to be honest. It's such a bad comic book. Connor Kent's upset. He wanted to pick his own team. He never would have made William Cobb his Batman. But she tells him it feels like she's got something on him. He did something really bad, and he feels bad about it, and he's letting Amanda Waller control him. Of course, if he gets out of line, she will just explode his head with kryptonite. Because Amanda Waller is actually more resourceful than Batman. She has a plan for everyone in the entire multiverse and Batman. Batman doesn't have a plan for himself. So in that respect, she is more deadly and more resourceful than Batman, if you didn't know that. And then she reveals her ultimate plan that if his Task Force Z that he's leading with this fake version of the Justice League, the Justice Squad, doesn't work out, she's going to revive the crime syndicate and bring them back online, and maybe they can do the job for her. They'll be more useful than he is. And we see them all. I guess they're not in cryostasis. They're in, what is it? Was that a back to tube? Is that what Luke Skywalker was in when he was healing up? I think that's correct. I might have that one wrong. I'm sorry. But you also see the Black Lantern ring in there. It wants to get out. It wants to take over Connor Kent. He thinks it's unstable and they shouldn't be keeping it, and it's dangerous. He's likely right. I imagine that'll play a part into it. A little foreshadowing. Also, I will say this. There's a little teaser that there's a Crime Syndicate #1 coming out in April. And this is going to apparently be associated with that. I would not have put this in here. I wouldn't want that Crime Syndicate book associated with this story at all because it is so bad. And I feel bad for Andy Schmidt, who's going to be writing that miniseries, because he probably didn't deserve that. He seemed like a nice guy. He was one of the writers on Generations Shattered. So he's probably a much better writer than Robbie Thompson. Did you know Amanda Waller was evil? She's like the most evil genius in the history of the world, even though she's technically supposedly supposed to be on the good guy team. I don't know. Connor Kent's conflicted. And then at the end, we get the big reveal. Guess who's leading the Suicide Squad? Peacemaker. John Cena. John Cena sucks. The Doctor of Thugonomics is in the house, and he's leading a team. We see Cheetah and some other supervillains in there. And that is his Suicide Squad. They have returned. They have come over to Earth 3 to capture Amanda Waller and bring her back, as she is apparently from Earth 1. She's jumping multiverses now, people. Amanda Waller, the most resourceful character in the DC universe. There's also a backup story with Black Adam. Guess who Black Adam looks like in that story? He looks like The Rock. Did you know that there's a Black Adam movie starring The Rock coming out? If you didn't, you will know after you read this comic book, because they want you to know that. They didn't care if the story was good, but they do want you to know that these characters are going to be in the DCEU moving forward. It's really weird that you only see the Suicide Squad on the very last page. It's weird that this is the Suicide Squad book when it's really just the Justice Squad. Very much feels like what Philip Kennedy Johnson did with Superman War of Worlds. I don't think it worked there. It works here even less so. I could recommend that comic on some grounds. I have nothing to recommend this comic for. It's just really bad. The dialogue's bad. The motivations aren't good. There's nothing original really going on. The big reveals are not big reveals because you knew they were coming. The team sucks. Yeah, this is a really bad Suicide Squad comic. I'll give it 1.5 stars. Is this the worst Future State comic that we've gotten so far? I don't know about that. That would be a bold statement. There's been some really bad ones. But it deserves to be among the worst. In consideration. It should be up for an award for that, because it's bad. If you love this comic book, please do not hate me. We just have a disagreement that I think this is an absolute dumpster fire. But we can disagree about comic books, people. Do not read Suicide Squad. But if you do, you will know there's a Suicide Squad movie coming. The Doctor of Thugonomics, John Cena himself, is playing Peacemaker. Apparently, they have big plans for him. Did you know there's also going to be a Peacemaker TV show? There is. So apparently, he's kind of a big deal in the DC universe now. There's also a Black Adam movie coming out starring The Rock. You'll know that when you see the character. He looks like The Rock. I think that's the only thing that this comic book was intended for. It wasn't to tell a good story. And in that respect, they probably picked the right writer, because that's not what Robbie Thompson does. Very disappointing. There you go. Tomorrow, I will have a full rundown of the entire Future State lineup for week number 4. Is there a comic out there worse than Suicide Squad, people? You'll know tomorrow.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.